today for this week's episode of Hidden People, we traveled to Gyumri and we are with Armine Gmur-Karapetyan, and you're the Executive Director of the Areva Manuk Family and Child Care Foundation in Gyumri. I must say it's a stunning building. It's the architecture and the facilities here. It's a center that deals with children and families that are facing psychological problems. If you could tell us a little bit about your foundation here, the clinic, the Areva Manuk Family and Child Care Foundation.
Yeah, in fact, Areva Manuk is created in 2000. Mm-hmm. It was created as foundation in 2000. The structure, the psychological service, was created earlier, just after earthquake, when
the 1988 earthquake in the northern
and in 89 already, MSF France, Médecins Sans Frontières, they created a psychological center because you know it is a very interesting detail. When earthquake happened and all that awful things, we survived that days, months, even years. Yeah. The doctors from MSF working here in Gyumri, they came for medical programs, for medical health, physical health problems. And then they found out that majority of children, they suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And somehow children were forgotten. Everybody is telling, no, we are the nation, we worship family and child is everything for us. It cannot be like that. But it was like that because people were busy with their homes, with the losses, they were traumatized adults. Really, children were neglected in almost in every family because there were other issues to address, and fathers, parents and grandparents and relatives, they were busy about other things. That's why the situation was like that. In one of the reports, I remember very good, a foreign expert wrote that children are somehow forgotten. Anyway, MSF France created Center for Psychological Services for Children and Adolescents. And I started to work there first as a translator and later on as psychologist.
You were born and raised in Gyumri, yes. So you were here when the earthquake hit. It's amazing to me that you say that the children were forgotten. Is this a common problem in times of disaster, or was this because I mean there earthquakes and natural disasters happen in many parts of the world, and the fact that the children were somehow forgotten is quite a revelation for me, because I do have that sense in Armenia that children are always a priority, and yet.
You know, we are very proud about that idea that children are priority, but I have real doubts about it. First of all, absolutely you're right. It can be that it is typical for a post-disaster situation or post-catastrophic situation. It is right, more or less, because I do not have any statistics to talk more precisely. But the problem is that maybe we are very sure that child is growing by itself, and if there is food, if enough food, if there is a shelter, so things are done. Yeah. But children were neglected that period psychologically. Although 2 years ago when we did a survey about child maltreatment, we found out that many children are psychologically neglected now. And I cannot consider 2013 as post-disaster situation. Of course, 25 years passed. But this is another post-disaster situation in connection with social economical condition and in and certain developments, again, not positive, in cultural and mentality issues of people.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things are related to the economic and social conditions, yes, of the country, of Gyumri, who has you know, a double burden of still having to deal with you know, the leftover effects of the earthquake. 25 years on, it's quite amazing.
And still, not exact number how many families do not have shelters or homes till now, how many are living in contemporary small houses or domiks as we call, and a lot of speculation about this issue, a lot of misunderstandings, and a lot of policy was made on it, and it is very sad. generally on disasters, there are many speculations, but what's going on here, it's already 25 years. And we shouldn't speculate on earthquake. 25 years past, quarter century, so we should say we have to go ahead. And if up to now we don't have exact numbers, governmental side is telling one thing and NGOs something else. There are some third parts, they playing between it, so it's sad.
Yeah, it's always difficult to get to the truth sometimes, isn't it, when there are people who are trying to conceal the reality. I want to ask about your foundation, about the center here, because you deal primarily with children and adolescents who have psychological problems. How many, how do you get your funding? How many children do you see annually? Can you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of services also that you provide?
You know, I would like to talk about psychology and psychological therapy generally, and I will connect it with our center. So that will be, because it is very important for me personally. In Soviet time, there was no any clinical psychology or psychological therapy or any service provided for people, because we were happy Soviet people. So it is very dramatic past of our lives. Second, when earthquake happened and it was clear that someone has to work with traumatized people, and that post-stress and trauma are absolutely important things to be overcome, and there are no specialists. So different centers were created by international organizations, MSF France in Gyumri, SOS Armenia, or International Red Cross somewhere else, in Vanadzor or in Stepanavan, so in northern part of Armenia. And foreign specialists tried to help, and Home created its center, Armenian Relief Service,
Armenian Relief Society, yeah.
In Gyumri again, and they were coming to train people to understand the situation and to understand how it is possible to live in 20th century without psychological support. Anyway, that centers were created, and when the missions were closed, states somehow took over. It means Ministry of Education financed centers, psychological centers.
What about the Ministry of Health? It wasn't involved? It was just the Ministry of Education?
Not that much. Anyway, education took over that 3 centers in North Armenia, and they created even one in Yerevan, and it was 1991. Okay. But there was no real understanding what is psychological service, how to
for 70 years, if there's no service.
What kind of structure they have to create, and of course specialists, who are the people they are going to work. Because in Armenia there were some, 25, 30 people, they have passed certain training in those centers with foreigners. They were mainly doctors or teachers by their first profession. Anyway, they opened those centers, somehow that work was going on. Of course, there was a lot of mistrust in local professionals, and people were thinking to go to them or not. It was difficult, but we could go on till 2005, when all these centers were closed, because so many years after earthquake, do we need any post-traumatic work or
because everybody should be happy.
Yeah, again, we are so happy, and those centers were closed. They had very little budget, but they were very important for development of not only clinical psychology, but also for places as practice for future psychologists, because very quick universities reacted and they opened faculties of psychology. Again, with a lot of problems in curriculum, with a lot of problems with lecturers,
professors. How are they trained?
Even the practice places were closed. But already in 2000, it was clear for me that one day they go into close. It is not well understood, and there is no any understanding about who is psychologist and what is psychological care or therapy or counseling. So in 2000, I created Areva Manuk. And during my work, I could understand that there are many, many issues connected with our Armenian family, in interfamily relations, parent-child relations. Many things are created, and that's why I called it Areva Manuk, because this is a very ancient Armenian fairy tale about son who is mother and the baby. And if you are very close to your mother, you can burn. because it's too hot. If you are very far, then it is cold. So you have to find the kind of, this is a very wise fairy tale, and that was great. I found out, I say it has to be called Arva Manuk. And we exist through grants. We cannot have any financial help, support from local government, I mean from City Hall, because till now it's not understood, and children and mental health is not priority, and the literacy about it is very low, even on very high levels. Mental health issues are ignored totally.
Yeah, this is what I want to say. 2013, 25 years past the earthquake, 22 years of independence, Soviet Union no longer exists, even though it still exists in our mentality, in our mind, in our worldview. It exists. I mean, I always say
corruption is talking about.
Absolutely. I always say the biggest lie of the 20th century was that the Soviet Union collapsed, because it has to collapse inside first. It's not only the physical thing. Do parents, when they bring their children to you, is there a stigma? Are they stigmatized by society?
You know, a very interesting dynamic happened in connection with the situation to go to psychologists or not. And I'm happy it was possible to keep this center, although very difficult. But I'm happy we could keep this center. So the door of psychological center for the last 24 years always was open. So people get learn to it, and they come in. And now, of course, more than it was in the middle 90s or beginning of 2000, yeah. Early 2000s, because there was, I told, no trust, and they were afraid about being stigmatized. Oh, if I'm going there, they will think my child is crazy. And yes, that things happen, but now they're more open, and they come.
What kind of problems are you presented with? What are the typical kinds of problems that the children in your center who are receiving your care? I don't even know if we can even talk about ADD, ADHD, you know, learning disabilities. Those aren't even addressed most times. But
yeah, learning disabilities, and not enough specialists and not enough well-developed approaches towards that question, because learning disabilities, or even physical and mental, some heart disabilities, we are not that much ready. A lot of things are done. There are NGOs, and government is paying attention even more than
it was
I would
before?
consider it was before, yeah.
That's good.
But we have to still pass a certain time needs to pass, that population is ready and people are ready, because today we have schools and children with learning disabilities, they go in now to ordinary schools.
So there is integration.
There is integration, but we were not ready for that integration, and teachers were not ready for that integration, and parents of healthy children were not ready too. But anyway, process started, and we have to believe and we have to support these processes. But the problems, they come into psychologists, again, very interesting dynamics happened. Like in 1992, 3, 4, we had a lot of speech problems.
From the stress.
Problems, stuttering, and yeah, because of stress. Because of trauma, because of other things as well. Or enuresis. We had a period very often were coming children with enuresis. Or there was wetting, bedwetting. Yeah, or daytime wetting even. Yeah. So the problems are now different. Now we have a lot of problems in connection with relations with parents, relations with society. We have a lot of socialization problems. They come, especially adolescents. There is certain dynamics, and it's interesting to see how.
So how many psychologists, psychiatrists do you have on staff that help?
Unfortunately, we had a time, we had a psychiatrist as a consultant working with us, and that is very important. Unfortunately, we don't have now a psychiatrist, so we refer families to mental health centers. We are only now three psychologists working in the center, and it is very difficult to find new ones, but many psychologists, they left. They live into USA, they live into Moscow. This is migration. They can be well paid in other countries. They can find their place in other countries. Very young, very bright, my colleagues, they left, at least 11. Can you imagine? Or they go into another NGO to work as psychologists because they're very well paid. Because if you are an international NGO, then payment is different. Yeah. So this is a very sad side of our reality. But the need for psychological work is growing.
Do you, I don't know if it's within the capacity of your foundation to do this. I mean, are you also doing some awareness raising campaign?
Yeah,
are you
certainly.
lobbying the government? What can other civil society organizations do? Is there a problem with, you know, advocating and getting more people on board to lobby the government to pay more attention to this? What are you doing those kinds of things?
I'm trying, you know, I'm trying, I would say,
it's
because
difficult to be
we
one
survive
woman,
on,
you know,
we just survive on grants, and we did several projects with UNICEF, for example, very good projects, with OSI Armenia, Project Harmony International. There are organizations we work in, or private foundations like CASA, Switzerland, Swiss Armenian Foundation. So there are different organizations we did projects, and during these projects we really try to work through mass media, making some talk shows about child maltreatment or sexual abuse, which is strangely accepted, but it is already usual for people, about child helpline, or about parenting, about positive parenting, about violence generally, about conflicts and conflict resolution, communication skills a lot. So all these things, they go in back to psychology and of course social work and sociology as well. But we are trying to do those things, and very often children or families are referred from governmental structures, like the trustees commission of City Hall. They refer in families for having some opinion and for them to, but who is going to pay for them?
Yeah, exactly. So when a patient is brought to your center, they do pay a minimal or a nominal fee.
Yes,
and I mean, I don't understand much about the process involved in helping these children, but have you been able, what is your success rate? Are you able to help these children? Because oftentimes I think the parents themselves need assistance too, because as you said,
this is family and child care.
So you work with the families.
Yes. Very often mother is coming or parents are coming with child.
Coming?
Yeah, rarely.
Rarely. This is another problem, of course.
Yeah. And if they come, we're surprised. We had parent school, and we had around 40 mothers attending this parent school. Unfortunately, in a month that project will be over too. We had only one father coming to the parent school. Anyway, if they come and the child has a problem, then they're surprised when they say, you know, you need. Yeah. Everything is okay. This is very adequate reaction of child to the situation and to your feelings and emotions and to your relations. So you need a therapy and you need help.
Right.
They surprised, and I consider success of Areva Manuk. People are coming to psychology. People, they learn that if there is a problem, they need to ask for help.
Right, and that's the most important thing, is to recognize it and then to have the ability or to know that you have to ask for help.
Yes,
and they
absolutely.
know that they can come to your center, to your clinic, to the Areva Manuk Family and Child Care Foundation. Armine Can, I really want to thank you for allowing us to come to your center and find out more about what you're doing. I think it's very, very promising that we do have centers like this, and not only in Yerevan, especially in Gyumri, a city that has suffered, you know, the ravages of the earthquake, and 25 years later is still having to deal with these issues. Where do you see your center going? Where would you like to expand? Or for you right now, this is the most important thing that you're doing?
You know, I would like that governmental structures, they trying to work with NGOs and trying to cover certain expenses, because it is very difficult to keep staff, building, rent, and so on. Yeah. And I would dream about the day when City Hall is finally recognizing that the first psychological center in Gyumri was here, and they need to help, and that it is important. I think I will go ahead like this with this center, trying to find finances and trying to keep it, because I see big sense in it. Child well-being and family well-being is important, and there are things that intensively we're losing now in Armenia, so this is very important for me.
We need to create.
I cannot ask, please help, SOS, please help, because there are so many other fields in that condition. It would be very, I would wish that the mental health, understanding of mental health is coming to a level that government will pay attention on it, because we have a very critical situation about mental health issues, about psychiatric problems growing day by day, and about psychological, neurotic, psychotic problems you have to address immediately. And this is a very critical situation, especially in connection with children.
Well, thank you very much. I wish you much success, because I find that the work that you're doing is so important today for our society, for our country. If we don't have healthy families, if we don't have healthy children, we don't have a healthy future. So all the best of luck to you, and hopefully we'll have a chance to meet up again one day and see what you've been able to accomplish here in Gyumri. Thank you.
Thank you very much.